Hi there, kids. This is a Fish and Frank's Fishing Club video. We don't have the music today because we're just doing a little short piece. We are just me, myself, Captain Josh Olive, the fish coach, and he himself over that way, Mr. Robert Lukowitz, the manager here at Fish and Frank's Bait and Tackle Boutique. Without Fish and Frank today, we are just doing a little short piece about getting you oriented in Charlotte Harbor. Now, if you've been watching our videos, we've talked a lot about Charlotte Harbor. You've seen a lot of these places in much more detail. This is just a general overview, but it's short and you get to listen to Robert, so watch it. Robert, what do you got for us?
So this is something Frank taught me years ago, and we've been teaching people this for years about Charlotte Harbor because we get so many people that are moving here or just visiting here. And they're often confused by kind of how Charlotte Harbor works as a whole. So this is kind of just a generic breakdown of Charlotte Harbor. So here basically is the east side. Over here is what they call the west side, west wall. And then up over here is where the 41 Bridge and the Peace River starts, or ends, I should say. And then you got the Myakka River over here. And of course you got Boca Grande somewhere.
Keep going.
Somewhere
Keep going.
down right about
there you go. That's Boca
right
Grande
about there.
Pass.
And yes, I'm not cool enough to wear sunglasses and my eyes are going to wander and wiggly because the first time in front of this. So here's a good kind of generic thing about Charlotte Harbor. In the wintertime is our dry season. So the water is a lot more salinity. And in the summertime we have the rain, so we have a lot more fresh water coming out. And kind of a generic rule of thumb is somewhere right about here, I'm guessing, is Burnt Store.
Burnt Store, you are right outside of it.
Okay, so Burnt Store, let's pretend we're drawing an imaginary line here. Burnt Store is here. Cape Hayes should be somewhere about right there.
You're right about the south of Cape Hayes Point, maybe a little further south of that. Cape Hayes Bar is what you're at.
So just draw an imaginary line from Cape Hayes over to Burnt Store. Good rule of thumb is December through May, even middle of June, fishing is good to great on this end of the harbor. Starting in May, you'll start to see it slow down a little bit. And from June through, let's see, which way do we go? We'll go that way. Yeah. June through November, really, all of your better fishing is down along the intercoastal. Anywhere along the intercoastal, north or south, it don't matter.
And when you say intercoastal, you don't mean the actual intracoastal waterway, the dredged channel that you drive a boat through.
No. Any of those barrier islands and such around there and sandbars along there.
Yeah, so for you, the intracoastal here would come as far inland as Turtle Bay, Bokeelia.
Yes. So what happens is in the wintertime, the rains subside, your salinity goes up in here, plus your temperatures are different up here. In the summertime, they're extremely hot and lots of fresh water. All of your fresh water is pouring out of the Peace River, out of the Myakka River, and out of all of the surrounding canals and ditches and swales. That fresh water chases their food out. And the dark water is a solar panel. So no food, and hot water means less oxygen. So if you can't eat and you can't breathe, it tends to make you want to leave. So a lot of your fish migrate down towards to the intercoastal and the beaches to where you have cooler water and higher salinity. That's where your food's at, and only 2 degrees can make a huge difference to these fish. Plus, some of our fish spawn during the summertime, and they need that higher salinity to spawn. They can't spawn in fresh water. That's technically brackish waters during the rainy season. You're still fishing for saltwater species, but it's still just a technical term for rain with fresh water and salt water mixing together. Now, that was the summertime. Now in the wintertime, the river stops flowing, both sides, Myakka and the Peace River.
And that stops because our rains pretty much stop.
Right.
These rivers are long, but they're not that long. They're draining this area while we have rains going on, and as soon as the rains quit, man, those rivers really slow down and can dry up even.
Right. And that's what we're having this year. This year we happen to be in a drought. And the reason why I say July through November depends on our rainy season. And then December through June, up here, because of the wintertime cooler weather. So the fish will move up in here into the wintertime because the canals are darker bottom, which can be a couple degrees warmer. Plus the salinity is higher, so there's more food that's available for them. But a lot of them go into the canals, they'll go into the rivers, but they're going to be associated with deeper water drop-offs because of thermocline, so they can get down into a little bit deeper water when we have cold fronts coming. And if you look at kind of the perception of the harbor as a whole, during the rainy season, you've got, where's my hand? Right there. So you got the Peace River is here. The headwaters of the Peace River is actually up by Orlando. And then the Myakka River, the headwaters are way at the center of the state.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly
and I'm
where
not
it's at,
going to
but
zoom
long
out
ways.
to show you all
No.
that, but just trust us there. These drain a pretty big area.
All that fresh water comes out and comes down and meets right here and bounces off the west wall and actually follows the west wall down for its natural current water flow, and then slowly trickles out through Boca Grande Pass. And then in the incoming tide, this is significant because the west wall will always be lower salinity in the summertime. And in the east side will be higher salinity in the summertime rains because Boca Grande Pass comes in, goes straight across, basically over to Burnt Store, hits the east side and ricochets up that east side, and then hits Punta Gorda Point.
Fat point. That's what Punta Gorda means.
And it ricochets a little bit, and it creates an eddy right here because you've got the rivers pouring out, the salinity coming up, and they hit each other and kind of create a turbid area right here in the center part of the harbor, upper harbor. But the freshwater will kind of win in the summertime. But this side will always stay a little higher in salinity than this side will. So that's stuff to look out for. So the other thing that also plays a role into our harbor throughout the year is like, this is a good example of what's going on today. So wintertime fishing is usually better up in here because of the warmer water and food. But we have cold fronts that come through this time of year, and that means lower tides. That means the harbor as a whole loses water, and that's because the shape of Charlotte Harbor, where it's situated, most of our fronts out of the northeast. Northeast blows water out of the harbor, and in the summertime, winds are predominantly out of the southwest and blows water. I'm still going backwards, but it goes out of the southwest coming. Yeah, Frank does have a struggle with this. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it comes out of the southwest and blows water into the harbor. And in addition to that, your wintertime tides aren't just naturally lower than your summertime tides anyway, never mind having the wind to do with it. The wind adds to the less water. So it gets people very confused and frustrated at times when they're trying to figure out their fishing and where they need to be fishing at. And it's like, I have people come in this time of year and say, well, where do I need to catch this fish? Or in the summertime, they tell me where I've got to go to catch this fish. And it's like, okay, you live up here. And in the summertime, I tell you, because they want to catch trout and snook, let's say, I tell them they've got to go all the way down here to Bokeelia or Pine Island Sound to find those fish because they want higher salinity and that's where their food is at. And they get frustrated and disappointed because they're like all the way down there. It's like, well, I'm sorry to inconvenience you because you actually have a $100,000 boat and you can run it all the way down there.
Yep.
That it's not close and convenient right outside your back door, but that's how it works. The fish are not always in those spots. So you got to be prepared to move around, whether it's from boat or land. Those fish shift from the southern end to the northern end of the harbor. And it all varies a little bit depending on our rainy season, temperatures. Right now we're getting back down to water temperatures where we should be, but it always varies. But the thing that stays consistent as the rule of thumb, wintertime, which is basically December through May, fishing is good to great up in the upper harbor. June through November, all of your better fishing is down here along the beaches and along the intercoastal. And it's just a good average way to look at Charlotte Harbor.
Yeah. Now, especially if you're coming out of Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
If you're already over in the Placida area,
Fishing stays good there
Fishing's
year
pretty
round.
good over there all the time. You know, our habitat is generally better over there, so you can always find fish there. But if you're coming out of Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, and you're
Yeah.
trying to catch fish, and it's at summertime season, yeah, plan on taking a ride.
Yeah. That's what you
So,
have to do sometimes. But
yep, just the way it is.
yeah.
But you know what? Your boat probably has a motor on it. You probably don't have to sail it down there. You don't have
Right.
to hitch up your horse and buggy and drive it all the way over to Placida. You can,
Yeah.
attach it to the truck and drive it over there instead.
Close and convenient always isn't good. Sometimes it's got to be inconvenient. The good news is we live in a beautiful place and we've got different species to choose from throughout the whole year, freshwater and saltwater. But sometimes you've just got to travel to get to those species.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what time of year it is.
Hey,
It
just because we're
changes.
lucky doesn't mean we can't be spoiled.
Well,
So,
that's it. I mean, a lot of times we are definitely spoiled without a doubt.
yep, it's the truth. So, we just wanted to take about 10 minutes to do this and walk you through these very basic basics. Of course, all this stuff gets covered in detail in other places, but, we figured you'd like this. And if you don't, well, then I'm sorry you watched it. We'll see you next time for something else.
There you go.
Wave,
Thanks.
Robert.
Thank you. That is definitely a little trickier.